All right, everyone. Hope you all are having a great afternoon, morning, wherever you are. So yeah, today some pretty big news came out. Magnus Carlsen will not defend his title. So without further ado, let's just jump right in and cover this article. All right, so here it says by Colin McCarthy, it's official. Magnus Carlsen will not defend his title. Magnus Carlsen on the Magnus Effect podcast. Magnus Carlsen, the five-time World Chess Champion, today ended months of speculation by announcing via his sponsor Unibet that he will not defend his title. The 31-year-old Norwegian is not retiring and vows to the best in the world and not care about the World Championship. That means China's world number 2, Ding Liren last round's candidates tournament win over Hikaru Nakamura has earned him a lucrative match against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Alright, and good evening as well to some of you for Red's evening. All right, Carlsen World Championship doubts. Magnus Carlsen, who has spent over a decade unbroken as chess world number 1, has long had a love-hate relationship with the World Chess Championship. In the Magnus Carlsen story, released in early 2021, he commented, I will most probably play in 2021, and if I were to win, I have no idea whether I would play the next one. He did play in 2021, but almost immediately after winning his fifth title against Jan Nepomniachtchi in Dubai, he gave a podcast interview to his friend Magnus Barstad for a sponsored Unibet where he commented, if someone other than Ferrugia wins the candidates tournament, it's unlikely I will play the next World Championship match. Alright, so yeah, we'll be talking more about later. Yeah, what a day indeed. It's quite crazy. But of course Magnus still is the best player in the world. I think nobody has any doubts about that. Um, Alright, Magnus announces his decision. 19-year-old Alireza Firouzja didn't come close, and in a new podcast with the same host entitled The Magnus Effect, Magnus now reveals that his World Championship adventure is over, at least for now. Alright, so I mean, we can watch this, but I guess this will all be in Norwegian, so we can give it a try. Wait, but you guys can hear me, right? Yeah, you guys can hear me. I was wondering, like, I'm not speaking for like 15 or like 5 minutes.
The Magnus Effect with Magnus Carlsen and Magnus Barstad.
It's
Welcome
English, go to
to
minute
the first
52.
episode of the Magnus Effect. I am Magnus Carlsen.
And I am Magnus Barstad. We decided to
Okay, we can watch this later. We can watch this later, but it's a little bit long, right? It's an hour and 12 minutes. So we can cover it later. But yeah. Anyway, the world champion explains. Ultimately, the conclusion stands. One that I'm pretty comfortable with, one that I've thought a lot about for a long time now. I would say more than a year. Probably a year and a half almost, since long before the last match, and I've spoken to people in my team. I've spoken to Fide, I spoke to Jan as well, and the conclusion is yeah, it's very simple. That I'm not motivated to play another match. I simply feel that I don't have a lot to gain. I don't particularly like it, and although I'm sure a match would be interesting for historical reasons and all of that, I don't have any inclination to play, and I will simply not play the match. Alright. Anyway, Anatoly Karpov and Hao Yifan both gave up FIDE World Championship titles as they didn't agree with the title being decided in a knockout. But you have to go back to Bobby Fischer in 1975 for the last player to give the title rather than defend it in a match. The difference, however, is that Magnus had no demands that weren't met. So I think yeah, with Karpov and Hao Yifan, like they won a World Championship, and I think they wanted the match, but they had to go all the way into the knockout again. So that makes sense, but and then as the article mentions, the only other world champion not to defend the title was Fischer, but he kept on asking for more and more money. Anyway, Carlsen's last-minute negotiations with FIDE. It was reported that Magnus Carlsen had a 40-minute meeting with the president of the World Chess Federation, Arkady Dvorkovich, and FIDE General Director Emil Satovsky in Madrid on the final weekend of the candidates tournament, when it was already clear that Jan Nepomniachtchi would earn a World Championship rematch. That meeting was widely thought to have been a discussion of what might make Magnus playing a new match possible, but Magnus explains it was mainly about communicating his decision. Wait, what happened? Wait, very annoying. Wait, let me fix the camera. Okay. Okay, that should be better. Okay. As many know, I was in Madrid for the conclusion of the candidates tournament. After the conclusion, I did agree to meet with Dvorkovic and Sotovsky from FIDE to talk a little bit. I did not have any demands or suggestions for that meeting. They did have a couple of suggestions, but the gist of it was that I was there to tell them that I would not defend my title in the next World Championship match, and we had a small discussion. They had some suggestions, some of them I liked, some of them I did not. Right here, Magnus Carlsen. Carlsen began World Championship career on a whim. Magnus Carlsen has been surprising onlookers since November 2010. When already clearly the world's best player, he dropped out of the 2011 candidates matches. He published a letter complaining about the system, but few found his explanations convincing. Maybe we can look at that later. It's already more than 10 years old, but he probably still has the same beliefs. He published a letter complaining about the systems, but few found the explanations convincing, and Magnus himself later confessed it was more about motivation. His suggested changes were implemented, however, and he did play in the 2013 London Candidates Tournament, but he revealed in a podcast that he very nearly didn't. It's been obviously an interesting ride since the moment I decided to play the candidates in 2013, which was, to be honest, on kind of a whim. I just at some point decided that I'm going to give the candidates a try, could be interesting, and ever since the World Championship title has obviously given me a lot, it opened a lot of doors, and I'm very happy about that. Okay, yeah, so Magnus Carlsen, he's been a world champion since 2013. So in 2013, he beat Anand in the match, 6.5, 3.5, 2014 as well. And in 2016, he was very closely losing the match to Karyakin, because he was down a game at some point, but he managed to come back and win the tiebreak. And against Caruana, it was all draws, and he won the tiebreak very convincingly. But the match against Caruana also pretty much could have gone either way, because both of them had some chances in the classical. Alright, let's keep going. Magnus scraped to victory after a last round thriller when both he and Vladimir Kramnik lost, and the Carlsen era began in earnest on November 22nd, 2013, when Magnus drew against Vishwanath in Game 10 of their match to clinch the title 6.5, 3.5 in Chennai, India. Finally world champion, thanks to all for your support. Alright, Magnus was asked if he had achieved everything he set out to achieve in the 9 years battling for the World Championship title. It's been more than 9 years since the candidates, it's hard to say. I don't think I had any other goals to win it once. Then I thought I'll try and keep it as long as I'm motivated. That's fine. To be honest, in 2016 I was not very motivated. I feel like I mostly played that match because other people sort of relied on it, expecting me to, which was fine. It was not their fault. It was all me for feeling that responsibility. That match in New York could have been the end of the road, since after 7 draws, Sergei Karyakin took the lead with just 4 games to go. Let's watch this video real quick. But yeah, Sergei Karyakin, he grabbed the lead in Game 8. I think in Game 9 he was also very close to winning again. And in Game 10, some players argue that he could force the draw. Anyway, let's watch real quick.
Oh.
So yeah, that is where Karyakin grabbed the lead and he almost won the World Championship. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how close, it all gets sometimes. Because yeah, Karyakin, he was very close to winning the World Championship back then. And of course, especially now that he's gotten banned, he's nowhere getting near to such a match again. Anyway, let's keep going. The sense of things falling apart was completed by Magnus storming out of the post-game press conference before it began. But he hit back and went on to win the match on tiebreaks. So yeah, the one thing I would say is that they did let him wait quite long, because I think they still wanted to interview Karyakin or something. But yeah, and I think Magnus got fined for that. Magnus, perhaps surprisingly, identifies his win over Fabiano Caruana in 2018 after 12 draws in classical chess as his most enjoyable. Huh, interesting. But the matches themselves have been at times interesting, at times a little bit of fun. The most fun match probably was the one in 2018. At least that was the most interesting one, and probably also for me, it had the least stressful moments, because it was the closest one, and it was one that I felt that was obviously losing would have been very bad, but it wouldn't have been a disaster that I considered losing any of the other matches. But overall, I feel like it's my time to go from the World Championship matches. I don't rule out a return in the future, but I wouldn't particularly count on it either. Yeah, the match was very close. Again, that he to Fabiano, but he did manage to win in the end. But yeah, I think he's saying that against Fabiano it wouldn't have been a shame to lose, because at that time Fabiano was very, very close to taking over the World Championship, or taking over the world #1 spot. Because I think Magnus was rated something like 28-35 and Caruana 28-32. So funnily enough, after every draw, their rating stayed the same. And but had Fabiano won one game, he would have overtaken Magnus. But at that point, especially in Classical, Fabiano was a very, very clear #2, and he could have easily won the World Championship match at that point. But of course, when the match went to tiebreaks, a lot of players knew that, okay, it's very likely now that Magnus is going to win because he's just much better rapid. Anyway, Magnus, I've been a chess professional now for many years, and my chess career dates even further back than that. And one of the things that I've never done very well is listen to other people's advice. I've always gone my own way, and it's brought me this trophy today. Alright. Carlsen and Kasparov, World Championship Legacy. Magnus made a cryptic post in the wake of defending his title against Vichy in Sochi, Russia 2014. A big thanks to everyone who supported me on this interesting journey. 2 down, 5 to go. Alright, so he won, this was after he won a match against Anand in 2014. And he's probably referring to that because Gary won 7 matches, so he wanted to win more than that, or at least equal that. Magnus said 2 down, 5 to go, referring to my 7 successful World Championship matches. 6.5 really. I wish him the best of luck. But again, it seems that it's only gonna be 6. No, it's 5. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll see what's gonna happen. In the new podcast, Magnus explains, I did have an Instagram post after the match in 2014, which was 2 down, 5 to go. I can reveal now that was just to mess with people. I never had a goal of winning 7 championships. I understand the whole thing about legacy and all of that, but to be honest, the last match, 4 championships or 5 championships, I understand for people who have been in that situation, it sounds weird, and I understand that I'm very, very privileged to have been where a lot of people spend their life trying to do the same thing. But 4 championships to 5, it didn't mean anything to me. It was nothing. I was satisfied with the job that I done. I was happy to not have lost the match, but that was it. Is Magnus Carlsen retiring from chess? No. The other big difference compared to Bobby Fischer is that Magnus is very much intending to keep on playing. Just so there's no ambiguity here. I'm not retiring from chess. I'm still going to be an active player. I'm leaving later today to go to Croatia to play the Grand Chess Tour. From there on, I'm going to Chennai to play the Olympiad, where Grandmaster Benjamin Bok is also playing, which is going to be a lot of fun. And the Norwegian team are seated as number 4 there, and the Netherlands team is seated as number 7. Then to Miami to play one of the real highlights of the year. I feel the FTX Crypto Cup, which is going to be awesome. And then right after that, the next event in the Grand Chess Tour, the Singfield Cup. So yeah, I've got a lot of chess coming up. I enjoy playing tournaments a lot. Obviously, I enjoy them a lot more than I enjoy the World Championship. And frankly, I don't see myself stopping as a chess player anytime soon. Magnus Carlsen joined Garry Kasparov, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and more players in giving assignment in Zagreb before the start of the Super United Rapid and Blitz. Photo by Leonard Otis. Unprecedented 2900 rating remains Carlsen's goal. Magnus Carlsen currently rated 2864 and with a record peak rating of 2882. I think his live peak is something like 2889. Isn't just planning on playing for fun, however he commanded. I hope to be able to edge closer to one of my other bigger goals, which is to make a 2900 rating. It's going to be tough, obviously, but at the very least I've managed to keep my rating this year, which is at least something. It means that the goal is not further than it was earlier, although it's tough, but we'll see. I'll just try and do the right things, trust the process and enjoy. And frankly, I'm excited to get back to where I was in 2011, 2012 and start of 2013, where I was all set on trying to improve, trying to be better, do the right things, play the tournaments, be the best in the world and not care about the World Championship. It's going to be a new era in chess to have Magnus Carlsen no longer as a world championship, as a world champion. But there will be a 17 world chess champion. Ding Liren versus Jan Nepomniachtchi for the title. Okay. Unless there are new twists, Jan Pomniachtchi, who won the 2022 candidates, will play Ding Laurent, who finished second in the next World Championship match. I mean, provided that they will agree to play, but I guess they will, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, both for Jan and for Ding, to become a world champion. Because Jan is not playing Magnus, and Ding is also not playing Magnus. He's playing Jan, so they have much better chance to win. I throw away that would have been one of my greatest results ever, said Hikaru Nakamura after losing game. He only needed to draw against Ding Laurent, and that the Candidates from last round battle has now taken on hugely greater significance. The moment Ding Laurent potentially earned a World Championship match, despite only qualifying for the candidates at the last moment when Karyakin was disqualified, and then losing his first game to Jan Pomniachtchi. With 4 wins in the last 6 games, Ding Laurent finished half-point clear of Hikaru Nakamura and Taimur Jabov to take the second spot in the candidates. That should now mean a €200 million World Championship match against Jan Pomniachtchi next year for the world number 2. An amazing outcome, given Ding didn't even qualify for the candidates until Sergei Karyakin was banned from chess and the tournament. Other players in the events may have regrets, including Fabiana Caruana, who finished the first half in second place, just behind Nepo, but crashed and burned as he battled to finish first. The chess world keeps on turning. We're sure to see shockwaves spread around the chess world after Carlsen's decision to renounce his throne, but as Magnus mentioned, there's little time to pause. Today he's playing Super United Rapid Blitz in Zagreb, Croatia, and as fate would have had, his first round opponent is none other than the player he beat, but now won't defend his World Championship title against Jan Pomniachtchi. Alright, you guys, so that is the entire article. Hope you guys enjoyed the read. But yeah, it's obviously very, very tough for, wait, did I say 200 million? It's 2 million, my bad. 2 million euros. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the article. But yeah, obviously very, very tough for Hikaru, because he thought the entire tournament, like second place is not going to be enough. He lost the last round against Ding. And he kept saying, like, yeah, I don't believe it in a million years that Magnus is not going to play. But here it is, he is not going to play. And so, had Hikaru drawn that game, he would have had the match. So, it's tough. Yeah, I actually asked Hikaru after that game if that loss was going to haunt him in case Magnus was not going to play. But we'll see. Maybe it will. Will haunt Hikaru forever? Yeah. Because he should have drawn that game. He should have drawn that game, in my humble opinion. But he didn't. Very fortunate, yeah. So he lost that game. Didn't get the World Championship match. And, yeah. Stuff. Okay, someone said... Okay, video just said, Magnus, I will not be defending my title, in short, but go to himself. 15-minute mark. For like 1.5 years, Magnus thought about not defending his title and is not motivated to defend his title. He doesn't have a lot to gain and doesn't feel like it could be historical. He especially mentioned that it's not fun. Of course, he's not quitting, still an active player. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for FIDE because it will be a Russia versus China match. So might be tough to find a good sponsor for that. But yeah. Yeah, Nepo versus Naka would have been insane. Someone is saying it's haunting me right now. Yeah. It happens.